Take a look at this mother dog holding her babies in her mouth. She's practically begging and praying for help. After receiving a distress call, an animal rescuer heads over to the scene of the troubled dog. The camera pans over to a lonely dog lying by a patch of grass. Apparently, the dog is a mother who recently gave birth to a litter of puppies. It's also been reported that she has been staying in this area for a couple of days now. With no one to fend for her and her newborns, this protective mother relies on the mercy of passing people for food. It's also pretty obvious that she's nervous, as her eyes are filled with fear when the person filming her gets closer. The dog rescuer then tests to see whether or not the mother would warm up to them. Right off the bat, her maternal instincts kick in as she immediately protects her babies with her body. But her energy is so depleted that she can't even let out a bark, let alone a growl. She can also barely show her teeth in an attempt to scare the stranger off. Worried about her safety and health, the rescuer goes back to their car to fetch a couple of dog treats and hopes that there's enough to feed everyone. As they make their way back, the animal rescuer attempts to get closer to the starving dog, but understandably the mother is still pretty cautious and protective of her pups. Hopefully, the treats would be enough to let her know they only want to help. After waving the dog treats in front of her, she still responds with a threatening snarl. It took a couple of tries, but she finally lowered her guard and ate the treat. Judging by the way she wolfed down the snack, it's clear she hasn't had anything to fill her belly for a while. Now that it seems she's beginning to trust the rescuer a little bit more, they took the opportunity to take a look at the puppy's condition. Unfortunately, they don't look well at all. In fact, they seemed pretty unresponsive. It was only a matter of time before their health would get worse, so they needed to get the mother's trust as fast as possible. Cautiously, the rescuer pets the mother until she begins to trust them. It was also at this point that they noticed she was sporting a collar, which likely meant that she was abandoned by her previous owner. Although cruel, being formerly domesticated means it's easier for her to be familiar with humans, which fortunately worked to the rescuer's advantage. After finally warming up to the helper, she was gently carried away so they could get a better view of the puppies. However, the rescuer observed that the litter was motionless. Seeing the mother's concern, they bring her litter of puppies in front of her, and she begins to lick them to wake them up. But unfortunately, it appears that the rescuer was just too late. All but one of the puppies lost their lives. The mother frantically took one of her babies who had passed away and carried them by her mouth. The tone of her whining was desperate. It was almost as if she was begging for them not to give up. The scene was so heartbreaking that it even made the animal helper well up with tears. All they could do now was save the living. As they gently carried the mother into a cage to bring her for treatment, she continued to hold her baby tightly in her mouth. They then turned back to save the only living pup out of the litter. Thankfully, the sole survivor was energetic despite being thin. It was a sad night for everyone as they had to bury 4 beautiful babies, but hopefully they could nurse the mother and the living pup back to their full health. It was also obvious that she was particularly more protective of her only pup. She couldn't afford to lose her last child. As an animal with strong maternal instincts, it's only natural for mother dogs to grieve. But in what seems like a twist of fate, 2 new pups arrived the next day. Coincidentally, these pups are motherless after their parent died from poisoning. Unfortunately, only 2 of the 4 puppies survived, but after making contact with our rescued mother and pup, they seemed to get along. Although the pair lost their family, they're now blessed to care for new ones.